Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS Free File can help people who have no filing requirement find overlooked tax credits and get a refund. There's an IRS YouTube video here on Do Your Taxes for Free with Free File. There's a link in both English and in Spanish. IR 2021-85, April 13th, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service today urged low and moderate income individuals and families, especially those who don't normally file a tax return, to use IRS Free File to prepare their own federal tax return, e-file it, and get a refund all for free. So they're advertising this Free File option. Remember that it's good to go to the IRS website if you're looking for this Free File option, but then the IRS website will guide you to the third-party software, some big name brands for individual tax filing, such as a TurboTax and whatnot, that typically have a free offer if your income level is below a certain threshold. The IRS website can help you to sort through those offers by the third-party software. So my interpretation of this would be the IRS is trying to work with these big software providers to have them create or prepare or allow people whose income is below a certain threshold to use their software, because it's very useful to use it in order to prepare the tax returns for those individuals. Obviously, if your income is above a certain threshold, then you would have to be paying for the software. This will be really helpful as the IRS is trying to get people to move from paper filing to the free file software, or the electronic filing. They want everybody to electronically file, and people that are below a certain threshold that have fairly basic returns then typically might still try to do a paper filing status, and the IRS is trying to push people onto the free file. Also note that some of the credits that are going to be for the lower income individuals, like the earned income tax credit, sometimes the child tax credit, are quite complex because they're trying to do different things with regards to who should get the credit. And they're also complex on the IRS's side because those are going to type of things that are going to be subject to fraud. So they have to be more careful with that as well. So those types of credits that may be subject, people may be able to get if their income is below a certain threshold, can more easily be filled out and looked into and done properly with the software to be using, because it gives like an interview type of process, which helps people to fill out that kind of information more quickly. So I believe the IRS's goal is to try to streamline the process, of course, on their end, which is going to be, I want to have things to be filed electronically. We would like the direct deposit so we can send out the payments electronically and make everything go much smoother rather than the mailing of the paper returns and sending out of the paper checks. But that's typically good for the individual side, because again, they're trying to get options for people to use the software which is very useful for the creating and filling out of the tax return. Also note that if you have not filed before and you ask the IRS the question, you look up the question, for example, am I required to file? Much different question than will it be beneficial for me to file? If you ask, am I required to file? If your income is below a certain threshold, you're not required to file. That basically means the IRS is not going to come after you if you do not file, because why would they? Because you don't owe any taxes if your income is below a certain threshold. However, that does not mean you will not benefit from filing. You could benefit from filing if you have refunds owed to you. So for example, if you worked somewhere, had W-2 income, and they withheld on that W-2 income, you would have that withholding coming back to you. Now, that could be small if you didn't have a lot of work that was done. So you could also have possibly the ability to have these refundable tax credits, which could increase the amount as well. And that's really what you want to kind of look into. That would include the earned income tax credit and possibly a child tax credit. Exploring whether or not you qualify for those is most likely worthwhile if your income is below a certain threshold and you're asking whether or not you should be filing or not. Very worthwhile considering you have software and you could basically do that. You could do that for free. So continuing on here, this year's federal tax filing deadline for individuals has been postponed to May 17th from April 15th. So it's been increased. So you got till May 17th to file now. Free File offers the free access to brand name tax softwares to anyone who makes $72,000 or less. So remember, that means that you're looking at brand name software. The IRS is going to try to guide you to the brand name software that will be right for you. And when you go over there, you want to basically make sure that the brand name software gives you what you need. In other words, Does it do any state tax returns? Do you have to file a state tax return? Because the state tax is different. And so some softwares may, some softwares may not. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Will the software calculate things like refundable tax credits, earned income tax credit, child tax credit possibly? You can then go through a questionnaire, so the software or the IRS website will kind of guide you to the software that will be most appropriate for you. You might want to search by brand name and whatnot, and then go from there. If you like the big individual taxes, the Intuit owns like TurboTax and whatnot, so it's probably one of a more tested kind of area, but it probably therefore also has a lower threshold for the AGI limitation to get access to it. I think there's one called Slayer taxes, which sounds an interesting name, and or Tax Slayer, I think it is, and it's not one that I know of as well, and therefore it might have a higher threshold. So you might take into consideration, the softwares that are the brand names and whatnot. I'm not promoting one or the other, but they will vary. But you should be able to find something that's below, if your income is below the $72,000, that would be available for the free filing. So already this year, more than 2.96 million individuals and couples have used this online service to file returns and get their share of these valuable benefits. Available only at IRS.gov, Free File offers people experiencing homelessness, students who are now on their own, low and moderate income families, and others a fast and easy way to access these benefits. All anyone needs to reach Free File is access to a computer or or similar device. No computer, no problem. The IRS File products support mobile phone access too, so you can even do it on your phone. Apparently, I wouldn't do it on my phone, but maybe I'm not that good at it. So, but if you are, maybe you can do it on your phone. So never has Free File been as important as it is right now. The IRS delivered 2 rounds of economic impact payments to eligible people. The first payment was up to $1,200 per person and $500 per qualifying child. The second payment was up to $600 per eligible person and $600 per qualifying child. People who did not receive the full amount of the first or second payments can claim the additional amount they are due as the recovery rebate credits when they file their 2020 tax return. So this is another reason the IRS is kind of pushing to get this filing option available to people that have incomes below a certain threshold, especially those that do not file, because even though they made a push to try to get the information from these individuals, and they worked with other institutions like Social Security and whatnot to send out these payments, if there was anything wrong with the payment, the adjustment to it is the recovery rebate credit. We're talking about the first 2 payments, economic impact payment round 1, round 2, not round 3. It's different. So round 1 and round 2 can be remedied by doing the recovery rebate credit. Round 3 also, however, if you've never filed before and you didn't get like the recovery rebate credits for round 1 and round 2, then filing the tax return would give the IRS the information necessary to then base the prepayment of the recovery of the payment 3, economic impact payment 3 on. So that means the IRS really wants to be able to get people to file so that they can get that information. They possibly are pressuring the third-party softwares to give that free file option below, if the income is below a certain threshold. So that's, and note the recovery rebate credit is something that's new. It's never been done before. It's unique to this year, and therefore it can be a little bit complicated as well. We got some different rules with unemployment income and things like that, which can be complicated. So it's because of these changes, doing the tax return by hand is going to be more difficult than it usually is, and it's already somewhat difficult. If you add in the recovery rebate credit, refundable credits, earned income tax credit, then lower income tax returns start to get quite complex, and tax software is very helpful. With the tax software, you can kind of put it together because it'll give you an interview type of process, helping you with the tax preparation. So, and that's where the free file comes in. It's a free way to claim the full amount of tax benefits, including the recovery rebate credit, and ensure that eligible people can get their refund. See the special section on IRS.gov claiming the 2020 recovery rebate credit if you aren't required to file a tax return. There's a link to that here for more information. Look for a free file product with, quote, no minimum income, end quote, and file electronically and choose direct deposit. Free File is also a great way to take advantage of two other tax benefits that help workers and families: the Earned Income Tax Credit, the EITC, and the Additional Child Tax Credit, the ACTC. These are the main two refundable tax credits, meaning if your income is still low enough that you don't even owe any tax, or you could still get a refund beyond basically the tax that you put in, which means it's not really a refund in that case. It's kind of like a benefit program at that point. So, and the software could help out with that. Of course, those are kind of complicated credits to calculate. Under a special COVID-related rule, people who were laid off during part of 2020 will often still qualify for these benefits. That's because if they worked during 2019, they can choose to use the 2019 earned income to figure these credits as long as it was higher than 2020. So this is another kind of weird rule that's put in place to try to help people, but it's also confusing. That means the Earned Income Tax Credit is a credit that's a refundable tax credit, but it's a strange one because they're trying to incentivize work. They're trying not to say, we're going to give people money not to work, and if they work, then they lose all their benefits. That's not good, because the idea is to get people, to be able to work and not lose the benefits. So the Earned Income Tax Credit actually goes up as you have earned income up to a certain threshold. You can imagine it going up and then peaking at some point, and then as your income goes up past that level, it goes back down again. It's also dependent to some degree on the level of children, 0 to 3. So that's a lot of factors that are involved. Now, in 2020, the problem is that many people that were working in 2019 couldn't find work in 2020. And the IRS is basically saying, well, that's not, we don't want to punish people that were looking for work and couldn't find the work with the Earned Income Tax Credit. And therefore, if they were having work in 2019, then we'll allow you to base the 2019 income possibly to help figure the Earned Income Tax Credit. In other words, with regards to the Earned Income Tax Credit, typically if you have no earned income tax, then you don't qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit. If you had no earned income in 2020, or your earned income was lower than 2019, then for the purposes of the credit, you could basically use 2019 as my interpretation of this in order to calculate the Earned Income Tax Credit, due to the fact that many people's earned income is lower in 2020 for circumstances outside of their control. So normally, you wouldn't want to have your income to be higher, because that means usually you pay taxes. But with regards to the Earned Income Tax Credit, having your income higher to some degree could be beneficial. So therefore, you have this kind of option for the calculation of the Earned Income Tax Credit to possibly take in the earned income of 2019 if it was higher, which may result in a higher credit. This is beneficial. This is complicated, however, and therefore doing it by paper is something that you can easily miss something like that. Software can kind of hopefully give you an interview process as you go through it, give you a questionnaire to kind of pick up these kind of weird changes, these unique changes that are happening for this year, designed to be beneficial, but also confusing. So through Free File, leading tax software providers make their online products available for free as part of a 19-year partnership with the IRS. So 19-year partnership. There are 9 products in English and 1 in Spanish. Visit IRS.gov/Free File. There's a link to that here for details. In addition, there's Mill Tax. There's a link to that here, available free through the Department of Defense. Offers a similar online tax preparation service for members of the military. So I believe the Mill Tax obviously is designed for members of the military. If you're in the military or a member of the military, thanks for your service. The tax software for the Free File software also, I would think, can pick up the special needs of people in that situation or in military service, because sometimes there's going to be tax benefits related to it, and you want to make sure that you're picking up any kind of benefit that would be relevant. So I believe like the normal software could do that if you use like a TurboTax or something like that, although the interview process may not be designed specifically for people in the military. It might have an interview process that can basically help you out in that situation as well. The Mill Tax is obviously designed for people in the military directly. And I believe there's a larger limitation in terms of the Mill Tax. I don't think it has the AGI limitation that so people in the military can still use it basically for free, I believe, even if your AGI is over a certain threshold. I believe the Free File software, things like TurboTax and whatnot, the free file option may extend all the way up to the 75 for all the softwares if you're in the military. I'm not completely sure on that. So your question then is, if you're over the threshold and you have to pay for the software on the free file, maybe you want to use the free military mil tax to do it for free. But if your income is that high, you might actually want to get advice at that point in time anyways. Or if you think the software is better over here, you might actually want to use it. If your income is below a certain threshold, then the question is, well, which is better? If it's free for me to use TurboTax and it's free for me to use the mil tax, is the mil tax better than the TurboTax? I'm not sure. Even if for military software, it's geared towards military, but I'm not sure if the interview process and whatnot is an easier interface to use than like TurboTax, which is obviously a larger software. So I'd be interested if anybody has any comments on that, on which would be better if you can pick both of them up for free or either one if you're in the military. But in any case, because free file returns are filed electronically, the service offers everyone a great way to get their money quickly. This is especially true for anyone who chooses to have their refund deposited directly into a savings or checking account. The IRS urges everyone to consider taking advantage of the speed and convenience of free file. This includes people experiencing homelessness. As long as they are not someone's dependent, chances are they still qualify for the recovery rebate credit, even if they have little or no income. So this is something that they tried to get people to do, to give the IRS their information last year. This year, they're not really doing that you have to file the tax return in order to basically get the recovery rebate credit and to kind of qualify for the third economic impact payment. So they can still use the free file even if they only access to the internet through a smartphone. Look for a free file product with, quote, no minimum income, end quote. Individuals who were claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return in 2018 or 2019, but who cannot be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return in 2020 may now be eligible to claim the 2020 recovery rebate credit and must file a tax return. So this is something, the earned income tax credit or the recovery rebate credit and the prepayments, which were the economic impact payments, could have impacted those people that were dependents and that possibly are on the kind of threshold as to whether they could be claimed as a dependent or not. That includes mainly kind of students, especially students that are going to school and that may still be able to qualify on their parents' return. The question then is, are you not someone who should be claimed as a dependent in 2020 or not? Because when they sent out the payments, they based the payments on 2019 or 2018 type of information. And that means that for the first 1 and 2, nobody would have gotten any payment because you would have been over the 17 threshold. So if in 2020 you're not, be claiming as a dependent, then you may be eligible for the recovery rebate credit, which I would think a lot more people might be saying, hey, I'm not a dependent, in 2020, if they get access to the recovery rebate credit. Because if you are a dependent, then you would think the money would go to the parents or whoever's claiming you as a dependent, but it doesn't because you're over the 17 threshold. So there's kind of an incentive for people to be independent early in that situation. In 2000, the third round of economic impact payments does not have that same kind of thing, because if you are a dependent, then you still get the payment. It just doesn't go to you as the student. It would then go to your parents or whoever's claiming you as a dependent, most likely the parents in that situation. So the third round, not really an issue, but in the first and second round, then the people that are students may have some incentive to not be claimed as a dependent in 2020 to claim the recovery rebate credit for round 1 and round 2. In any case, so one spouse with an ITIN under a new law enacted in December 2020, a married filing a joint return now be eligible for a particular credit when only one spouse has a social security number valid for employment. If a couple did not receive one or both economic impact payments because of one of them did not have a social security number valid for employment, they may be eligible to claim a 2020 recovery rebate credit and must file a 2020 tax return. There is an exception if one spouse is a member of the U.S. Armed Forces. There's a link to that here. Qualified child: families who had a baby or adopted child during 2020 did not receive a first or second economic impact payment for the qualifying child. They may be eligible to claim the 2020 recovery rebate credit and must file a 2020 tax return. So that's the other situation. Remember that first round one and round two of the economic impact payments went out to people based on the prior year information. Qualifying children then would have had some amount of a payment as well. If you didn't have a qualifying children in 2019 and they based it on 2019 information, someone was born then in 2020, then because they were there in 2020, even if it was in December 31st of 2020, then they would qualify for the credit. In order to pick up the credit, you'd have to file the tax return typically to do that and pick up the recovery rebate credit. Low and moderate income workers and working families who don't normally file a return. Historically, many of these families miss out on the EITC and ECTC, the refundable credits, because they don't file. Check out a closer look column for more information on how Free File can help people get all available tax benefits. For those who are not comfortable doing their own return, IRS training community volunteers offer tax help at more than 11,000 tax help sites nationwide. To find the nearest site, visit IRS.gov/volunteers, or you can call 800-906-9887. So note again, the Free File software available, but if you don't, if you're not comfortable doing that, there are other resources that you can go to, volunteer areas possibly to help you to fill out the tax returns as well. There's links to those areas here, so you can look into that, and there'll be a link to this in the description.